Okay, that was that case actually came about because I wrote in an article in Taxation about personal liability notices, and the agent that was involved in that, he was a fraud investigation specialist, but there was a huge company penalty, pay as you earn company penalty, about 1.4 million, and he was unsure as to the risk of personal, if it would be transferred in the client's name personally. So we're talking about a huge amount here. So he then approached me. It was the actual agent involved or consultant involved who approached me on this. And then we had a meeting with his client and himself. And from there on, the case was then transferred to me. So we went through, it was a pay-as-you-earn company assessment and company penalty. And I went through all of the paperwork, reviewed the case. It was quite considerable. After all, the actual assessment, pay-as-you-earn assessment, was about £4 million. And eventually we got to a point where we managed to get HMRC to withdraw the penalty, the company penalty. So that was successful in its own right. So the company penalty of 1.4 million was withdrawn. But after that, even though we had agreed it'd be a nil liability, there should be nothing left on the company pay as you earn account. It should be a nil balance, and that was even provided via HMRC in writing. So they actually said when it's settled, it'll be nil. There shouldn't be anything on the account. But our client then was pursued by HMRC, and another assessment for about nearly £1 million had been issued and sent, and was being the client was being pursued by debt management when it wasn't valid. So I had to go back to HMRC and say, well, you're not supposed to be issuing, it should be zero. So why are you issuing this? And so they said, oh, okay, we will correct it. We will correct it. But on the 24th of December that year, another assessment had been issued on Christmas Eve. And he forwarded that to us, to me. And I said, okay, let me handle this. So I talked to HMRC again, and they said their systems wouldn't allow them to update it, and we had to do it on their behalf. So I went, well, this is not actually our issue, it's your issue. This is the tax investigation, the compliance check has been resolved, it's been settled. You've agreed it's nil. So why are we now chasing after HMRC and debt management in regards to a debt that does no longer exist? So at that point, our client was fed up, and we then had to, okay, we will send something in, we'll send an updated return, so there's a nil liability. But even after that, there was still a balance left over, about £11,000, and HMRC couldn't explain why. And it was definitely nothing due to our client. And so at that point, he said, enough's enough. Okay, it should be nil. You're not resolving it. You're not getting rid of the balance. It's not our responsibility. This is what's been agreed. It's here in black and white. So then we submitted a complaint to HMRC, which was upheld, and our professional fees was reimbursed as a result. So that was quite successful in that, first of all, we got the company penalty of 1.4 withdrawn. And we reduced the risk as a result, completely nullified the risk of the debt being put in the director's name personally. And then we had a situation where even then our client was being chased for assessments that was not due or valid, and submitted a successful complaint where our professional fees was upheld or reimbursed. In this case, it was reimbursed and our complaint was upheld.